Well, it certainly feels like race season now. Welcome everybody to the new season of the Ranch Bar and Grill Methanol Madness. I'm joined once again by co-host and voice of Ruapuna Speedway, AJ Batt. Had a little bit of a winter break there, AJ. How was it for you?
Oh, winters are always way too long. Did shoot up to the States and caught some race meetings and put a few thousand miles onto the rental car and so on, but just so good to have another season of Speedway here at Ruapuna.
It absolutely is. Now there's a few people that we'd like to thank for making this season of Methanol Madness possible, starting with our naming rights sponsor, the Ranch Bar and Grill. We're excited to have them on board and backing the promotion of Speedway through these episodes, so if you're ever in the Fiordland area, make sure you pop in and say thanks to the team down there for their support. We've also partnered with KH Fabrication for the Crash of the Week, which doesn't feature in tonight's episode. Of course, we haven't been racing yet, but if you're ever unlucky enough to be included in a Crash of the Week video, chances are you're probably dropping the car in at Kieran's in the morning. So great to have their support and get to support local as well. AJ, it's nice to have some good people backing the show this year.
Oh yeah, and both of those guys, Kieran and Dan, are class acts, aren't they? And both do so much for Speedway racing, not only here at Ruapuna, but right across the board. And it's just so good to be associated with good people.
And of course, we're backed by Ruapuna Speedway as well. And our guys behind the camera are JPTV for helping bring the show to life. So without further ado, we'll get into the rest of the episode, starting with the review of the week. It's been about 6 months since we wrapped on Speed Week, where we had 10 different winners and 13 feature races across 4 nights with 6 classes racing. It's quite the spectacle to end the season, AJ.
It's a perfect way to end a season, isn't it? The guys, they want to finish on a high, and they come from up and down the country here. It's a meaningful end to the season. Good prize money on offer too, and it sort of started establishing some bragging rights with some of the little sub-events that have been introduced, the last man standing and things like that. They're just really good events, and roll on another Speed Week.
So whilst racing came to a halt here in New Zealand, there was a few key competitors that we know and have seen compete here at Ruapuna Speedway over the last few years that headed over to America to get some more laps in as well. So a few key highlights that we want to cover off, try and get as many in as we can, but it was a pretty busy season for our guys as well. So as North Island TQ drivers Dylan Cook and Caden Barker actually headed up to America to compete in the Hyper Racing 600 Speed Week, which was their micro 600 class, and they went up there and competed over a 7-day period against hundreds of competitors and a lot of different tracks as well. And then Jonathan Allard, who we all know very well here in the Daltons number 4, was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Northern California. AJ, you've spent a lot of time in that area. What does a recognition like that mean to someone like Jonathan?
It was actually a real highlight of our trip up there, was finding out that JA was going to be inducted. So we ducked along to the ceremony, and there was actually a good number of Kiwis that made sure they were there, and Jonathan was just so grateful. But, Jonathan has been an absolute constant in the Northern California scene for such a long time. 2 and a bit decades, he's been one of the dominant forces. Still a proud American, still proudly from Chico, but he's also very much a Kiwi. And it absolutely meant the world to him. And when you look at some of the names of the people in that Northern California Hall of Fame, they're people that have been so dominant as promoters or personalities or racers. And JA was a very popular inclusion in it. And he is still a very highly respected driver up there. I was actually at Chico the night he won the Gold Cup against the World of Outlaws, and they just about tore the roof off the place. It was such a celebration, and that was a good 20 years ago, and Jonathan is still just so popular that when he goes for a walk, everyone's patting him on the back. He's just one of the sport's greats.
Also, a little bit more local, the Jemmett family headed up to Northern California for Chris and Kane to get some racing in too. AJ, tell us a little bit about their trip.
Yeah, what a great thing for the Jemmett family to be involved in. And Roger Gleeson, former Christchurch promoter and sprint car racer and club president, Roger sponsors the series up there through his Hunt Magneto's business, and they have the Hunt Magneto's wingless sprint car series. Unlike our wingless, they run V8s, and it was a deal that Roger put together. Chris was initially going to be the only one driving, but good old Kane took the gear over there just in case, and they both ended out racing. And, you know, just so good. And how proud do you think that Gary and Roger Gleeson would have been watching a couple of Christchurch boys skidding it up over there? And the good thing about Northern California, and it's something I bang on about so much, they're quarter-mile tracks. And so they don't really have that much to learn apart from a little bit of banking and an absence of a safety fence or two. But, you know, what a great opportunity for them. And they both went very, very well. And I believe it could happen again.
And Max Guilford was also up there for most of the winter break as well. After picking up his first national title at Kiki in March with the sprint cars, he then went on to have his best season to date up in the United States. He picked up 3 IRA wins, which was the series he was competing in up there, and was also named Rookie of the Year for the series as well. His schedule release for this coming season came with the news that he would be mainly based out of Australia this summer, with a pretty sweet looking ride as well, taking the 1NZ over there to represent. AJ, he's been a crowd favourite here at Ruapuna Speedway for many, many years now, but it's great to see him taking on a new challenge.
Yeah, it is, and he had a very good run up in the States here, running for the Greg Wheeler team. And, you know, the IRA outfit, they sort of run around the Wisconsin area and so on. And Max has become one of the key drivers in that series. He's always there or thereabouts in the results. Going to Australia, there again our loss. It will be really good for Max to test himself in the water over there. I do have a sneaking suspicion he'll come back here for one run somewhere at some time, because he is just so proud of that 1NZ that he'll know that if he doesn't appear in New Zealand with that number on the card, you know, it could be a lost opportunity. So I'm only speculating, but knowing how Max operates, I would say if he gets a chance, he will grab it.
And of course, Max's teammate last year with Daniel Anderson Racing was Joel Myers Jr., who headed back to his homeland to continue racing as well. Joel also had a very successful year, collecting a handful of wins across the country in multiple different cars as well. But he also picked up the biggest win of his career so far. Honestly, not that long ago either. These West Coast races run a little bit longer as the weather kind of is a little bit different to that of out west. So it's cool to have, of out east, I should say. So it's cool to have Joel continue to race almost exactly up until when he gets to come back to New Zealand and race. But his biggest win there was actually a points-based 360 sprint car race. It's the Trophy Cup, where he came away with the honours at the end of the event with a nice $30,000 check to sweeten the deal as well. Tanner Holmes was actually the feature winner on that night as well. AJ, it's a stellar field and a very famous race over there.
The Trophy Cup, very few events in Northern California are as big as the Trophy Cup. You've got to take away, you know, the likes of the Outlaws or the high limits races, but the Trophy Cup is a bit like our Gold Cup. They all want to win it, and it's run at Tulare, which is a really neat quarter-mile track, and it gets gnarly. I've been there a number of times, and it gets a big old heavy cushion, especially sort of once you start getting into September, October time of the year. You know, there's a little bit of sea breeze and a little bit of cooling, and so the racetrack tends to stay very tacky, and hit that course the wrong way and you're going to do some damage. But a big win, for Joel in taking out the points, because it's that's how it's decided. But, you know, he gets rewarded for that consistency. But for Tanner Holmes to take out the feature race, that was good for both of them, because the Trophy Cup is one big deal.
And it's awesome too, as I said, getting to basically race the whole year for Joel. We all know that he does more meetings than pretty much anyone in New Zealand could if they don't travel. So it's awesome to see him get so many laps under his belt as well before he comes back here. But now moving on to New Zealand racing, a few tracks have begun their seasons over Labour weekend. Bay Park kicked off on Saturday night, with the midgets having a strong performance all round, with the feature being won by Mitch Fabish. Second place went to Luke McClymont and third place Ben Morrison. Australian Zoe Pearce is also back over here, and she's got a pretty full schedule in the midget racing for Tim Stone, so that's cool to see her get to represent some of her sponsors and partners over here and get to continue to build on that relationship with them. Sprint cars were also at Bay Park, with Jonathan Allard winning 2 heats, but it was Daniel Thomas who would prevail in the feature. Second place went to Hayden Williams and third place Ryan O'Connor. And some keen eyes might have also noticed that Michael Pickens appeared on the Bay Park entry list as 54C. And no, it wasn't a typo like a couple of people may have thought it was, but we are very excited to have Michael represent the club as he races around the country this summer. Now going to the other end of the country, Central Motor Speedway also kicked off in Cromwell over the weekend with their opening night. We had Kirk Hawkins go down and represent the V6 wingless sprint class down there. He had quite a few good runs there, winning a heat, and he ended up second place in a points-based format as well. It was George Headley who won those points, who was also the winner of our Canterbury Champs event last season. We had a number of sprint cars go down there. Of course, AJ, that title coming up in January, I think over the next few weeks and leading up into early January that we'll see quite a few guys go down there as many times as they can.
They will. Cromwell is a sort of racetrack because of its unique shape. It takes a little bit to get a handle on. And it will be as much about learning the racetrack and its little intricacies as the season goes on. We'll get some North Island visitors and they will just want to gauge on the South Island guys how they run down there, because they've got to make a little bit of a decision from time to time, and what they do is they bank their memory of what a guy tends to drive like. Does he go a little bit high into that turn 1, turn 2, or does he try and run mid-track? And so there's going to be a lot of banking of sort of information for these guys down there, and Cromwell and Ruapuna are going to reap the reward of all of that.
So we had Connor Rangi go down there to compete, Caleb Bourne and rookie Harry McIntyre in the sprint car class as well. Bailey Clive was also on the way down there, but they struck some trouble with their transportation getting down there, so they weren't able to make it all the way into Cromwell, unfortunately, but we look forward to seeing them at opening night. Caleb had a pretty good evening. He won a heat race there. Harry was unfortunately involved in a crash in heat 2, but he was able to make it back out for the feature, so pretty good showing for his first real meeting in the sprint car class. Connor Rangi ended up finishing third in the feature, with Zach Sokol taking out the win. Second place was Josh Buchanan there. AJ, Cromwell's had some pretty big upgrades over the winter. They've gone under new promotion with Peter Murphy jumping in and helping out the team down there ahead of a pretty big season for them. It's exciting to see a racetrack get a little bit of a refresh and have some new eyes come in and take a look at it.
Yeah, it's huge news. It really is. Pete Murphy he's a visionary of the sport. Proven to be a very good promoter up in the USA. He's one of those guys that goes everywhere. Just a little bits of gleaning of information and ideas and so on. He's not so proud as he won't say, hey, I saw this at Ruapuna, or I saw this at such and such a place. And he's teamed up with Jason Scott. And Scotty is another guy that, they're so passionate about the sport, but they've got so much in the way of connections and, their connection book. Boy, it would be chock full, and they will bring out the very best in Cromwell, I've no doubt about that. And Scotty gave it a pretty good run for a number of years and then stepped aside, and you could actually tell, and that's a little bit of a hallmark of what someone does, is when they're gone, you just see the little cracks that start appearing. So it's so good for the Cromwell Club, but also good for the Speedway in the South Island. They will both make a really good fist of it.
And we'll touch on it a little bit later in our preview as well about some of the big meetings that they have coming up this season that, of course, Ruapuna is also involved in with those internationals. So that sums up our review of the winter break, what some of our drivers have been up to, what our fan favourites have been up to, and who's already started their race season. So we're now going to get into our share and win giveaway. We're proud to bring this one back this season, where we give away 10 free adult passes to every single meeting. You just have to check our Facebook page before the meeting. It usually goes up about the week before for you to get your entries in, and then we can draw them live here on Methanol Madness. So the winners for our opening night are Ben Griffiths, Kirsten Newton, Blair Jones, Georgia Shortland, Steve Inn, Sarah Bowie, Heath Hanna, Craig Chamberlain, Danielle Warnock, and Dallas Stewart. Congratulations to those 10 winners. Your pass will be waiting for you at the main gate on Saturday. It's always great to be able to give back to our local community and those that support us so great, AJ, and it's always a giveaway that does really well.
Yeah, everyone loves winning something, don't they? And, you know, what better prize can there be than a night at the Ruapuna Speedway? So, you know, some of those are very familiar names, a couple of long-time supporters of Speedway in there, and just, you know, come along and enjoy it. That's what we want all our prize winners to do, along with everyone else, obviously. But last year, the number of entries that we were getting was insane, and it's going to be top this year, I've no doubt about that.
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody who entered, and you'll have to, if you weren't lucky this time, you'll have to enter again next meeting. So stay tuned on our Facebook pages. We'll move now into the preview of the week, which we're just going to use for the opportunity to talk about some of the upcoming meetings at Ruapuna Speedway and all of the spots that you're going to want to be this summer. AJ, let's start off with the calendar. We've got a pretty jam-packed calendar this season, and we've got some pretty big events that we're looking forward to hosting, starting this weekend, of course.
Yeah, this weekend we've got the King of the Clay and the Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam, and it's always a really popular way to kick off the season, isn't it? The Avon City Ford Group getting in behind that, and the King of the Clay, boys, there's some real bragging rights in that.
It sure is. Following that, our next meeting will be November 15th for the Run Acres Canterbury Championship, also featuring round 2 of the Dalton's Sprint Car Summer Slam. That Canterbury Champs is something that a lot of our competitors look forward to winning, and it's a bit of local pride, so we're excited for that one.
Yeah, a couple of weeks later, Gary Cochrane Isuzu presenting the annual Carnival Fireworks Night, along with another round of that Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam. And that Carnival Fireworks Night is just so popular, isn't it? It's become one of the backbone events to the Speedway, one not to miss.
No, it's definitely one of our biggest nights of the year. And following that, with a new addition to the schedule, we've got a double header of the War of the Wings. This follows Cromwell's 2 days the weekend before, where we're going to see 7 Americans take on New Zealand's best. Thanks to K&T Drainage and Shearing's Earth Moving, we've got a Friday, Saturday double header, calling it the December Double, and we're very excited to get that one underway. Also featuring all of our support classes as well, with the Rhinestone TQ Memorial being hosted on the Saturday night, as well as the first round of the Midget Super Series.
Bit of a break over the Christmas New Year break, and we throw the gates open again January the 24th when Brian Humm presents a round of the Hydrolink War of the Wings Sprint Car Series. We've got another dose of the Midget Super Series and the Battle of the Sixes, and the 6-cylinder class just love that series.
And following that, on February 7th, is the Sprint Car Salute to Goody, brought to you by Run Acres Insurance. Also on that night is going to be the King of the South series, which is the Lightning Sprints, and the TQ20, which is always a favourite for the TQ class.
February the 28th, another round of the Hydrolink War of the Wings. It's actually the grand final, so we'll be hoping that that one hasn't been bolted up as far as the winner goes, and it's always a great battle here at Ruapuna. Plus the Battle of the Sixes returns, and we always get a good entry roll from down south, so a lot of island pride at stake there.
And if the final round of the War of the Wings is anything like last year's one, you won't want to miss that. Then following that, on March 14th, we've got the Lightning Sprint Clay Cup, the Battle of the Sixes, and the TQ Series as well. So we're excited to have March 14th be another one that you're going to want to put in the calendar.
Couple more big nights of sprint cars, March the 27th and 28th with the New Zealand Sprint Car Grand Prix plus the Wingless Rumble. I do hear we've got an American entrant for that, so that's something to look forward to. And the Midget Eliminator on the second night there, plus fireworks. So put that up on the calendar, March 27 and 28.
Always great when we can get fireworks alongside a championship evening as well. And then we'll round out the season, of course, with the Gold Cup as always. A crowd favourite, a competitor favourite, and our biggest nights of the year. We'll also be accompanying that with the TQ and Midget BT Race for Mates. So it's great to have that back on the calendar as well this year, honouring a great man of Speedway, which is fantastic to be able to support everything that the BT Race for Mates stands for. And for those that like to travel around the country supporting local cars and other tracks as they host their championships as well, well, you've got a very busy January. Cromwell is the host of the New Zealand Sprint Cars on January 9th and 10th. Bay Park has the New Zealand Midgets on the 16th and 17th of January, and the TQ title is being held in Auckland on the 23rd and 24th of January. So all back to back to back, if that's what you so desire, to chase those ones around the country. But we've got our own racing happening at Ruapuna Speedway tomorrow night with the Avon City Ford King of the Clay and the first round of the Dalton's Sprint Car Summer Slam. We've got all 6 classes racing tomorrow night, AJ, so we're going to run through some of the entry lists, starting with the quarter midgets, who are the biggest field by far.
And growing. 26 entries, and it's just so refreshing to see the new kids coming into the game, but also to watch some of them progress season by season, and it's just a remarkable transformation for some of them. I love watching the quarter midgets.
Some of the ones to watch up the front there are most likely going to be the 54C of Jackson Clark and the 62C of Brodie Morris. But I would keep your eyes on Carter O'Brien too. He was a rookie last year, but he really made great ways through all of the massive fields that he had to compete against last year. So I'm sure now with a full season under his belt, he will be ready to go just in time for such a big night for them as well. Now, the lightning sprints we'll talk about next. I just wanted to give a disclaimer because I don't actually think we've discussed it yet, but the lightning sprints are modified sprints. So at the Speedway New Zealand AGM this year, they went through a name change just in terms of trying to align themselves better a little bit more internationally. AJ, it's a unique change for us, obviously, having to get used to calling the class something different, but the class has been growing so much in the last year that it was the right move for them.
Oh, absolutely, it's the right move for them. And in fact, we did roll the lightning sprint name out a good number of years ago when we had some mini sprints with the car engines coming and travelling, and it's a brilliant transformation for the class, even if it is only by name, because it starts bringing that international connection. So all power to the lightning sprints.
And it does look a little bit different for them this year with no Liam Astle and no Harry McIntyre, who of course have been the dominant forces in that class for a number of years now. AJ, it's still a really stellar field, and again, a number of rookies joining as well, but it'd be cool to see someone like Luke Cook, who picked up his first win last year, pick up another.
Yeah, a bit of a changing of the guard. There is one guy I'm really looking forward to seeing, and he's old, and that's Colin Cameron. Colin and I actually started racing the same day in 1977 in mini rods, and he's still going. And Colin has just got such a great sort of track record behind him in saloons and stock cars and so on. And he's been coming over here a bit in the last few years and into the lightning sprint. So go the number 8.
Keep your eye out for that one. I believe it's blue and orange too, so it stands out for sure. We've also got Sean Shilton on the entry list for lightning sprints this weekend. You're probably most familiar with Sean as a TQ driver. He's trying his hand at double duty this weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing Sean get out there and get after it as well. Next up is the wingless sprints. A pretty decent field of them again, AJ, and it's cool to see Danny Livingston and Mason Whelan coming up from down south as well.
Yeah, and again, a few names missing, but a few, the old boys still there. Shooter Hawkins, he'll be going all out to keep extending his run. But I see Peter Keith is coming back, and he was the winningest driver before Shooter came and took that record, so the fur could well fly between Shooter and Peter Keith.
Might see a new rivalry coming out in the wingless sprints this year. Also good to see Corey Duckmanton on the entry list. He had a pretty nasty scare following our practice with a road accident on his way home, so we're pleased to see that he was all okay on the mend and is able to come back racing again as well. So keep your eye out for the wingless sprints. They're certainly ones to watch for all the drama going on and all the action all the time on track. Now the TQ class as well, AJ, a smaller field than we used to. Of course, we hosted the New Zealand TQ title last year, so we expected, we were consistently at that 25 car mark just about every meeting. But this is a really nice field of really strong drivers.
It is, and another opportunity for the likes of Malachi Webb to really start re-establishing himself as one of the top dogs and so on. I'm very sure at some point of the year we'll see Jeremy Webb, the multi-time national champion, joining it. But Jamie Booth, he's one guy that I think he is poised to do something very, very good on TQs.
Jamie was very fast at Ellesmere practice just a couple weeks ago as well, so it'll be interesting to see what he can put to the track here at Ruapuna Speedway. A quick note as well on Jess Morris. She welcomes Graham Hill Roofing to the side of her TQ this year, which is awesome to see them jumping on board and supporting her racing. But as you say, Malachi Webb and Lockie Brett as well, probably the ones to watch at the front of this field, alongside a few of the others, of course, as well. Now the midget class, once again, they're looking pretty strong, AJ, and it's always fun watching the midgets, and we saw a couple of them, get a really good shot at some front runners last year, with Jay Chadwick picking up that feature win as well. So I'm really looking forward to the midget racing this year.
Yeah, I think Jay Chadwick could be the guy that is going to really assert himself this year. They had a little bit of bad luck last year and went through a bit of a sort of patch that, they were chasing things a little, but Jay Chadwick, he's ready for this, and they've got Kaz Townsend still helping in there. And if you don't know anything about Kaz Townsend, boy, he is an absolute gun in setting up midget cars, and he's actually world renowned. So, they could be chasing the 98 machine, but one guy I'm really looking forward to seeing is the best sounding car in Speedway here at Ruapuna, and that's Scott Miller, who has picked himself up a really good sponsor with the Empire Chicken. So, that's just so good. Everyone watches the V4 and everyone listens for it. So good old Scotty, he's been a big part of Speedway here for a number of years. Liam McCoubry, another one that will certainly be doing everything he can to be right at the pointy end of the season or the field rather, for yet another season where Everett Motorsport have fielded a car. They've done that since about 1967, every year.
Yeah, wow. Great effort from a lot of our midget car guys there to get out. And as you say, a couple new looks. Liam McCoubry is sponsored by Mag and Turbo this year on the right-hand side, which is a nice big spot of exposure and matches our brand new VIP area signage up there as well, which is pretty cool. And as you say, Empire Chicken coming on board with Scott Miller. You have to stay tuned for the nights that they are a vendor here at the Speedway, so you can get yourself some Empire Chicken while you sit track side. So there's lots to watch for in the midgets as well. They'll have their Super Series coming up a little bit later on in the season as well. And last but not least, the sprint cars competing in the first round of the Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam. So we try series that gets hosted here at Ruapuna Speedway, AJ, but it was very competitive last year, and I expect it will be again this year.
Yeah, really competitive, and again, this national championship and the sort of resurgence of sprint cars in the South Island. We've got Zach Sokol coming here, the Auckland guy, and he's another one that sort of did some time up in the USA, took out the feature at Cromwell the other day, and he's going to hit the ground running down here. But there's 13, could be 15 cars this weekend. Good healthy support from down south too, so really looking forward to seeing the sprint cars in action. And we've got Jamie Duff and Matt Honeywell, both absolutely fingers crossed on engines arriving and so on. So, we're going to have a really good lineup this weekend.
Yeah, it's great to see Shannara Stronach making the trip up, as you mentioned there, as well as Zach, who's actually registered to Cromwell this year as well, which is pretty cool of him to base himself out of there, obviously ahead of that big title coming up in January. Adam Evans is making the trip up as well, and of course the McIntyres bringing little brother Josh with Jacob now, so that'll be awesome to see them roll out a two-car team. And of course, local favourites, Conarangi, Caleb Bourne. You've got Liam Astle, local favourite from the Lightning Sprint, now moved up into the sprint car. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Liam and Harry can do with a few more laps under their belt, AJ, just being rookies in the class. It's a pretty big step up from a Lightning Sprint, but both those boys have got more than enough talent.
Oh, absolutely. They've got talent to burn, and it'll be really good to see how they adapt to it. Modified sprints, or Lightning Sprints as we call them now, a great sort of training for drivers to get used to using every bit of power that is there. And that is a class that's all about momentum. As are sprint cars, you adapt to what part of the racetrack you're going to be on to keep up the momentum. And also good to have Freeman Motorsport coming down with Jack Burson from Nelson. So, it's a very solid lineup for the sprint cars this weekend.
Matthew Levisage also competing this weekend as well, so we're excited to see him back in his local stomping ground, which is always great to see. We love having these guys that he's always been a Christchurch member, but awesome to see him get to compete for the first time this season here at Ruapuna Speedway. But AJ, that pretty much wraps up everything that we can expect to see tomorrow night with this Avon City Ford King of the Clay. What are some of your hot takes and what do you think might come out of tomorrow night's racing?
Well, I always love opening night because there's an air of anticipation. There's new machinery, new paint jobs, new drivers, and there's always challenges. The established guys fighting off the challenges of the new boys, and opening night, it's always pretty special. And footy season's over now, so let's go to the skids on Saturday night.
I too am looking forward to who I might get to catch up with in Victory Lane tomorrow night as well. Always a highlight getting to see the excitement of these guys and girls as they get out of their cars. So that wraps up tonight's episode of Methanol Madness, brought to you by the Ranch Bar and Grill. Join us Saturday, November 1st for our opening night at Ruapuna Speedway. See Avon City Ford King of the Clay and the Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam. You can purchase your tickets online at ruapunaspeedway.co.nz, and if you can't make it trackside, then you need to go on to rjptv.co.nz to get onto our live stream. But until next episode, keep your foot up it.